Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Look, Minister, this has been a painful experience bringing this legislation through the House. And well, we'll try not. But look, I mean, the IALPA people have engaged with us. The IAA has engaged with us. Being honest about it, IALPA's concerns are, for me, the premier issue. I want to see their concerns met. And the reason why I want to see them met is that we have a history, a documented history in this country of pilots making complaints, raising issues of concerns, raising issues of health and safety, and those issues being ignored. And we lost 4 decent, honest, hard-working crew people when Rescue 116 went down. And the litany of I suppose, disregard for the experts that were piloting those aircraft and working on those aircraft should be something that would worry all of us. Now, in looking at a licence holder's form, consider an analogy, let's say in the health service. Are surgeons likely to meet with everybody in the hospital and discuss issues of concern or issues relating to poor practice or whatever? I don't think so. I think that you meet at a professional level with the people that have the professional expertise to discuss issues of concern. So licence holders should not be diluted in any way with those who are non-licence holders. If you want to set up another forum for a sort of a general chat amongst the entire staff of a particular airline or a group of airlines, by all means do it. It's probably not a bad idea to have some form of discussion generally about how the organisations operate. But when we're talking about the guys who sit in the cabins up front flying the aircraft, when we're talking about the engineers who are highly skilled personnel, these are the people that we want on the licence holders form. These are the people that IALPA want on it. There's nobody trying to undermine anybody here, except for I am somewhat concerned that the people who drafted this legislation or who had a massive impact in the drafting of this legislation, the IAA themselves, the fact that they don't understand or seem not to understand what's been asked of them and been asked of this legislation by the IALPA members, by the experts on the ground, for me it's really hard to understand. It really is, and being honest about it, I think you're being put in a horrible position here, trying to come in and defend something that is indefensible. At the end of the day, it's the experts on the ground that need to be listened to, not people who are working out of offices or wherever else. Now, the issues that have been raised by my colleague there today, the twice-yearly meeting, at least we know then when the meetings are going to take place. The next thing is the members. We know who's going to be there. Going back to my trade union days, one of the most important things in the world is having a name that you can go to. Somebody that is identifiable if you have a concern that you can raise. And that's why raising the names of the individuals involved in the forum is really important. In addition, in order to avoid industrial disputes and the like, having representation from the trade union group, for my 3 and 4pence worth, is entirely a valid operation. It ensures that concerns are raised on behalf of those who are represented in that room. Best practice, I mean, can we argue about sharing stuff on best practice? I don't believe we can. Engagement with the company in matters relating to regulation, aviation safety and commercial air transport. Just think back, Minister, to the Rescue 116 and the engagement that took place with the company from pilots, from crew, that was totally and utterly disregarded and no effort whatsoever made to meet their requirements, no effort whatsoever made to try and ensure that better practices were in place. I mean, there is read the report. The report is very clear on where things were at. So, I mean, what we're talking about here is that pilots have a voice, and that voice, and other licence holders, and that voice is documented. It's there for everybody to see. It is there for future reference. If something goes wrong, nobody ever wants to be in a position where they can say, I told you so. But in air safety, it is something that is really, really important. All you have to do is take your phone out and look at the app that traces aircraft flying across our skies any day of the week. And there are literally tens of thousands of aircraft in the sky at any given time. All we want is that those flying from Irish airports under Irish flags have the confidence that there is a system in place that they're feeding into, that they feel comfortable feeding into. I'm not so sure that pilots would feel comfortable in some broad church where we sit down with the people who are packing the suitcases into aircraft, the people who are working in ground crew. Licence holders is what we're talking about here, the people that we trust to keep these machines in the sky and to make sure they get from A to B safely. So from that point of view, I will be supporting this amendment. And I would ask you, Minister, in order that we progress this legislation, accept the amendment and let's move on and get this legislation out of this House and get it enacted, because I do know people want to see the legislation enacted. So I am happy to work with you, but this for me is an absolute. It has to happen.
Thank you, Senator Craughwell.
Thank you, Gerard. And I want to thank the senators for your contributions. The substantive issue in Senator Doherty's amendment, in my view, is the distinction between an aviation stakeholders forum and a licence holders forum. So under EASA regulatory safety system, the EU Regulation 2018-1139 and associated implementing rules, there are a number of identifiable stakeholders. You have licence holders, certificate holders, declared organisations. In addition, under national legislation, there's other terms also, such as permission and approved organisations. So licence holders would be individual pilots, air traffic controllers and aircraft mechanics. Certificate holders, organisations who have been audited and deemed to meet the safety regulatory requirements, for example, airlines, EU-certified airports such as Cork, Shannon and Dublin, for example. Maintenance providers, approved training organisations. Declared organisations, they're organisations who make a declaration to the IAA that they comply with specific rules, for example, declared training organisations, non-commercial complex aircraft operators, special operations, for example, aircraft used for specialised activities such as agriculture, surveying, etc. In addition, under the national regulation, we have other terms such as permissions and approved organisations and people operating under permits. Permissions relate to the IAA issuing permits to carry out certain specialised aviation operations, such as search and rescue, aerial works and flying displays. Approved organisations relate to the IAA approving organisations to carry out certain aviation operations such as flight training and maintenance of aircraft. For example, there are 5 flight training organisations and 7 type rating training organisations approved by the IAA. By using the expression licence holders forum in primary legislation, we may inadvertently limit the participation to just pilots, air traffic controllers and mechanics, with no scope for others who would have important input to make on aviation safety matters. It would cast the membership far too narrowly. Having consulted with the IAA, my expectation is that the membership of the Aviation Stakeholders Forum would be drawn from recognised aviation trade unions, for example, IALPA, FORSA, certified aviation organisations, for example, air operator certificate holders, certified airports, approved training organisations, certified maintenance organisations, representative bodies, for example, the Federation of Aerospace Enterprises in Ireland, which is the national trade association representing the aviation and aerospace industries in Ireland under the aegis of IBEC. Recognised aviation stakeholder groups, for example, the airlines organisation IATA, the International Federation of Air Pilots Association and the European Cockpit Association. Declared organisations, other interested parties, for example, the Air Accident Investigation Unit of the Department, AirNav Ireland and EASA. And as the focus of the forum is on aviation safety, the inclusion of representation from areas of travel trade, tourism, hotels, passenger rights. It's not envisaged. I hope that that gives senators some perspective in relation to who would be on that forum, and as such I can't accept Amendment B4A. In relation to the may, will, shall issue, the Office of the Parliamentary Counsel have advised my department as follows. In effect, shall is the same as will. Shall implies obligation, as does will. Some jurisdictions use will instead of shall, as it's deemed to be more user-friendly, colloquial language. However, the drafting practice in this jurisdiction, where there is an obligation to use shall. Just in relation to Senator Doherty's amendment around the timelines in relation to the requirement that the forum convene twice yearly, and the requirement that the IAA publish its first licence holders charter no later than 3 months after the consultation with the forum, they are unnecessarily prescriptive. Regarding the forum, there could be years when the forum wants to meet more than twice per year. This amendment in effect means that flexibility in convening the forum is removed. Regarding the licence holders charter, the stakeholders forum is consulted on the charter. Therefore, the forum would need to be established to inform the development of and the shape of the charter. It's also envisaged that there would be also be a stakeholder public consultation on the charter. All of this takes time, and 3 months would not be sufficient. It wouldn't give the opportunity for the forum members to fully participate in the development of the charter. But I can assure senators here that my department will be keeping pressure on in relation to the progress of that charter, and there will be an urgency around it. In relation to the requirement that the IAA, by notice on its website, specify the names of the members of the forum, I presume that, Senator Doherty, you intend this means to name the organisations participating in the forum as opposed to the individuals representing. And while I can't accept the Senator's amendment as drafted, I would consider this issue in advance of a report stage. And also in relation to the twice yearly meetings, I could look at a suggested wording, a minimum of twice yearly meetings in relation to the forum, and come back at a report stage on those.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, that's clear. Look, I think the Minister has come quite a distance over the discussions on this bill, but I have to say that the licence holders formed the discrete group of pilots, licensed mechanics and air traffic controllers. These are the people who are in the front line when there's an accident. These are the people whose expertise are questioned. These are the people, for example, the technicians involved in aircraft. Every nut, every bolt that's put into an aircraft is recorded, where it was made, when it was made, who made it, all of that sort of stuff. These are the key people in any air accident that are involved. I actually am a little torn here today, because the list the Minister read out is quite extensive, and I actually think there's some merit in having a wide-ranging discussion around air navigation or air transport and all of that sort of thing. But I do believe that the licence holders, that discrete group of 3, need to have their own forum. They need to have a safe place where they can discuss issues of concern, and that safe place needs no other outside bodies involved.
And we let the Minister respond to those points.
I appreciate that. Now, Chair, take your time here, because, you know,
we've been taking our time.
We're entitled to speak, so, you know, let's not rush things here. But the bottom line on it is, pilots will speak to pilots. They will speak to their engineers, and they will speak to air traffic controllers, because those are the 3 groups that work together. And in my view, they need their own forum. I welcome the notion that a minimum of 2 times a year, because I accept what the Minister is saying. There may be times when you would want to have several meetings when various issues come up. But I cannot accept that we would go for this wide group. The discrete group of licence holders is what's required, and that's what I'll be looking for.
Okay, Minister. Thank you, Senator Craughwell.
Thank you, Senators. Just to say that the aviation ecosystem, it is complex, and it consists of people, a wide range of people, to ensure the delivery of a multitude of services to make the aviation system function safely. And that is the objective of this forum. It is about aviation safety, and those who will be at the table will be able to feed into that and are experts in that area. And what the purpose of this forum is will be to highlight the exact areas that senators raised, and that is why I have put this into this legislation as well, is to promote the sharing of best practice in aviation safety initiatives, to engage with the IAA on matters relating to the regulation of aviation safety, to elicit views on proposals at EU and national level around aviation safety, enabling the sharing of aviation lessons learned, best practices, aviation safety performance indicators, and the purpose here is to ensure that you have the right people around the table who specialise in aviation safety and who have that collaborative approach. And that is why I have put the stakeholders forum into this legislation to, I suppose, to make it more robust, to ensure that I suppose the commitment is there from my point of view in primary legislation that this forum will be set up. And just in relation to the 3 months, from my department's point of view, and certainly my point of view, there will be an urgency around this charter. I can assure members of that here, but they will need time in order to ensure that charter, they have the time to collaborate, to engage and to cooperate. And by tying it down to 3 months, it's setting, I think, too much of a limited time, and that's from engagement with the IAA. But you can be assured that there will be huge focus from my department on that to ensure that the charter is published.
Okay, thank you, Minister. And before I bring anyone back in, I'd just like to welcome, slightly unusually to have Minister Catherine Martin in the visitors gallery as opposed to sitting where Minister Nocton normally is, but you're very welcome, Minister Martin, to our visitors gallery. Always welcome here with your group from my own constituency and yours of Dublin right down. So you're all very welcome. Hope you have a lovely evening. Enjoy your stay in Leinster House. And now back to Senator Doherty. I think you want to come
Chair,
in. Go ahead.
Minister, I'm confused because I don't think you answered the question that I asked. And so, I can see maybe why you want to have a stakeholders forum. And I can actually probably see some merit in getting everybody involved in the entire industry to meet on a regular basis to share whatever it is that they think would improve the industry. But to create a licence holders charter from that very large body, I don't see how it works. So maybe can you explain to me how you envisage that at the first meeting with 50 different representation bodies, a lot of whom are nothing to do with safety, sitting around the table, how you think the input will be to create the licence holders
Thank you, Senator Doherty. Senator Craughwell, did you want to come back in now? Yeah, you did. So before I bring the Minister back in, go ahead.
Thank you, Lasker. Minister, just following on from what Senator Doherty said there, I'm long enough around and have worked in various organisations in my life where when you get a very broad church like this, you can actually manipulate the way in which a forum will work. You can bring interested parties together in order that the minority group are drowned out, their voices are drowned out. We are talking here about air safety. We are talking about pilots who witness near misses every day of the week. We are talking about engineers who are responsible for the maintenance of those aircraft. And we're talking about air traffic controllers who have the difficult task of making sure that aircraft fly across our skies. And the amount of aircraft that flies over Ireland every day is astronomical. Look at it any morning at 7 o'clock, look at it any afternoon from about 3 o'clock onwards. I cannot accept that, for example, cabin crew would have a role in the safety at the level we're talking about for licence holders. I cannot accept that ground crew would have a role in discussing the type of air safety we're talking about. The argument you make about the wider group, like Senator Doherty, I think it's a great idea, but not for this critical safety measure. And I think only the 3 groups that are there. And I hate to go back to this, but maybe if you had an aviator on your staff, that's what he or she would recommend. And that's one of the grave concerns I have about this legislation going through anyway. So that's my position, and I ain't changing.
And I'm sure you probably didn't mean to suggest that people are witnessing near misses every day of the week. I'm sure you probably didn't wish to suggest that people are witnessing near misses every day of the week.
Well, I'm sure they're witnessing near misses.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure they witness them occasionally, but not every day of the week.
That's fine.
But to be fair to the Minister's come on a movement here, and
I agree.
And I think that,
and I'm in the chair, and I'm totally impartial, but I think that this has come a long way from where we were.
But in defence of Senator Doherty, she is raising some legitimate points, and I'm hoping that in report stage, the Minister could see with the officials some of what Senator Doherty is proposing that can make the legislation better, which is what we're trying to do here.
Better again.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is I'll bring the Minister back in, then maybe we'll be able to put the question. So Minister, go ahead.
And just to reiterate, the focus of this forum is about aviation safety. Those that I mentioned will have a role to play on this forum and will have an important role in that. Just in relation to the IAA, and it's important to say there is a huge amount of expertise within the IAA. They've over 120 safety experts on their staff. They have 25 highly experienced pilots with over 100 years of combined experience. They have over 25 highly experienced engineers with, again, aggregated 100 years of experience in all aspects of airworthiness. There's other safety experts there, including air traffic controllers, air navigation service engineers, experts in aerodromes, security, aircraft certification, pilot training and licensing, ground operations, charting, drone regulation, risk management, statistical analysis, aviation medicine, and the list goes on. And you can be assured, Senators, that the focus of this forum is on aviation safety, and it's only those who have an interest in that who will be on that forum. And it is in the IAA's interest, and certainly all of our interest, that this functions and functions well, and that is the focus. And as I say, the Department will be monitoring the Charter and making sure that they publish that Charter as quickly as possible. We all want the same aim here, to ensure that we have effective and a collaborative approach to aviation safety, and that's what this forum will do. That's the purpose of it.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Craughwell.
Look, Minister, I don't deny or don't reject anything you're saying, but for the life of me, I just cannot understand, for example, what will a certificate holder bring to the forum that would in any way, if you want, change the outcome if it were pilots only and air traffic controllers and mechanics. There's such a wide list there, and I'd love to have the list and go down through it line by line and have you explain to me what each one of these people would bring to the table in a forum, because we're talking about safety and we have a track record in this country of ignoring pilots who fly, of ignoring the complaints they bring, of ignoring the safety issues they are concerned about. In all fairness, I will qualify that by saying I'm referring specifically to the report of Rescue 116. But if one company can do it, others can do it. And the whole point behind this is that you have the experts who are in the air, the experts who make sure the machines are capable of going into the air, and the people who monitor them as they fly from A to B. Those are the three critical people, the three critical organisations that are involved in air safety. All the rest are nice add-ons, but they are not involved at that level. So if the Minister would go down through the list she read out a few minutes ago and tell me what each one of those will bring to the table by way of expertise, maybe I could accept it, but I can't accept it the way it is. I just can't, and I don't think anybody in their right mind would accept it, now in fairness.
Okay, well, I'll go back to the Minister and see what the Minister wants to do, and then I'll put the question. Minister?
I've answered the question, Chair, that the focus of this group will be on aviation safety. Thank you.
Okay. At one point, the Minister read out the qualifications that are available in the IAA. This legislation is about regulating the IAA. I would hope they have the qualifications that the Minister is talking about. But at the end of the day, that's not the issue.
Okay, that's the point you made. And Minister, would you like to come back in, or would you want me to put the question?
Sorry, just to clarify, this bill is not about regulating the IAA. It's about the separation. It's an institutional, structural change. And I have said this at previous sessions, Chair.
And I think I think I've heard you a number of times making that point. So this is Amendment A4A, which is the Government Amendment, which I've moved on behalf of the Minister. It's a new section, and I'm putting the question that the new section be there inserted. Is that agreed? Agreed. Okay, so Amendment B4A is not? Oh, you said not agreed. Okay, well, I'm going to put the question. It's Amendment A4A, the Government Amendment I moved on behalf of the Minister, that the new section be there inserted. Those in favour say Tá. Those against say Níl. I think the question is carried. Vote all. Okay.